I'll remember him obviously as an immense political leader and someone who ushered in a whole new era of equality and hope and possibility for people. And I remember him as a person, as someone who was actually great fun to be with, warm company, compassionate, kind, always really, really good to everybody. I mean, I always say to people, you know, when he used to come into Downing Street and see me, I mean, after the formal greetings, he'd always say hello to the people on the door, the people making the tea, the people doing the staff work, and take a genuine interest in them. So he was an iconic political figure, of course, but also a great human being.
He also met your family as well, didn't he? What was that like?
Yeah, he was great with the family. He sort of played with the kids and was, I mean, they were a bit bemused by it, frankly, but he was just wonderful with them. And I think one of the reasons why he's made such an impact, because, of course, what he did in South Africa is remarkable, ended apartheid, brought in a new system of government to South Africa. But if that had been, as it were, all he represented, he would still have been a major, major political figure at the end of the 20th century. But I think the reason he means more than that is that he did it in such a way, with such a dignity and a presence and a character, that he inspired people in a whole range of situations. So I always say to people, in terms of Northern Ireland peace process, for example, he was a great inspirational figure for that. And he, you know, the method by which and the manner in which he forgave and reconciled, it wasn't just something he did formally or that he needed to do politically. It came from the heart, and it was very clear that it came from the heart when you spoke to him. Because he disagreed with you on the issue of the Iraq War. What did he say to you about that? He never really said anything to me about it. I mean, he disagreed with intervention, actually. I mean, he didn't agree with America having that role. He disagreed with Kosovo, actually, too, and Afghanistan. So he you know, that was just an area. He used to say, look, you know, Tony's a man I like very much, but I just don't agree with him on this, and we agreed to disagree. What did he think of Britain? He loved Britain. He was always incredibly warm about Britain. And I always say to people, because obviously he was very grateful for the support the Labour Party gave, and when we were arguing, Neil Kinnock actually showed a lot of courage in doing this in the 80s, arguing for sanctions against the apartheid regime when that was quite unpopular, and when he would get fiercely attacked for that. So he's very grateful to the Labour Party. But you know, people often say to me, well, did he not, when he then met Margaret Thatcher later, feel a great sense of bitterness towards her? And the answer is no. I mean, he was always very gracious and kind about her. I think they actually made up and got along in the end perfectly well. And I remember one of the last conversations I had with him, the first thing he did was, you know, nothing to do with politics. He asked me all about the Queen, how was she, to pass back his very best wishes, and he liked Britain. He liked what Britain represented. Actually, he had a great affection for Britain, and he loved coming to London. And of course, he had this great capacity to forgive. Have you ever thought, Mr. Blair, if you had gone through what he went through, would you be able to do the same as he did? Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's, you know, you think maybe you could in principle, and even as a matter of politics. But as I say, the extraordinary thing about him is that the forgiveness was real. I mean, he had worked this out in his own mind and in his own spirit, if you like. So the forgiveness was, and this was important because it communicated itself to everybody. So it wasn't just a question of, you know, you can get a post-conflict situation in which people reconcile, but you only have to go a little beneath the surface and the bitterness is still there. You could go as far as you want beneath the surface with Nelson Mandela, and the bitterness wasn't there. So would you be able to do the same thing, you think? I don't know. It's a question I've never had to answer. In any event, for sure he would be an inspiration in doing so. Tony Blair, thank you very much for your time tonight.